This time on Roadkill Garage, we're bringing back the Wreck Runner. It's half a 68 Roadrunner, half a 68 Satellite.
Oh yeah, in the shop, on the road, on the dirt, and on the track.
You forgot massive burnouts for distance.
Oh yeah, 383 4-speed power, baby.
Here's a fun fact to know and tell for you and for you. You know what it is?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
The original episode of Roadkill Garage, where we took the silver Roadrunner that had been completely smashed, that Finnegan and I got running and driving in smashed form, and then when we transferred all of those parts onto our $800 satellite shell, most watched episode of Roadkill Garage of all time. I can't believe how much work we got done in 3 days to make this thing a complete car.
I know, but it all came so naturally because we know these cars really pretty well, and there's a lot of parts around, so, you know.
I think the thing is, the Roadkill cars that we end up assembling and then perfecting over a bunch of episodes are the best ones. And that's what we're gonna do with our so-called Wreck Runner here. And this time we're gonna just do a few refinements to make things like a better driver, or maybe a little bit faster. And I'm gonna get out the pressure washer and try and blow off all of this disgusting sunburn clear coat that's grossing me out.
Okay, get busy, Freiburger.
Okay.
It sounds good, but it's got a teeter-tot when you look at it from the back. It's high in that corner, and it's low right there.
It's funny you should mention that, because that was the first thing I wanted to deal with, because it bothers me so much.
I know.
I think it's just this torsion bar adjustment, I hope.
Yeah, because that's dropped, and the rear is not adjustable, the front is, so
when it was outside, I also made sure the tire sizes were the same in the back. All right, so let's crank up the torsion bar, because that'll be instant satisfaction.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, the Mopar muscle cars have torsion bar front suspension. Instead of a coil spring, there's a long rod that attaches to the lower control arm and extends back to an anchor in the car. And the twist on that bar is actually what carries the weight of the car. And so you can adjust them to go higher. There's a nut in the lower control arm that has an adjustment, and as you screw it in, it puts more twist on the bar, and it'll raise the car. So normally you have to pick up the car to do this. I'm gonna hope that this fits underneath that control arm and that this has the power to lift it up, but probably not. We're going the lazy way. This is Roadkill Garage after all. It's working. How's it look?
I'm gonna measure both sides and see if they're even. 26 1/4. This side's a little lower, I think.
25 1/2.
So up more?
Up more.
Good?
I think that's good.
So next up, one time we were trying to pull this car with a chain. There we go. Whoa! And it actually pulled apart this mount right here. So next up, I want to climb under there and see if I can figure out if I can fix it. Okay. Hey, Steve?
Yes.
Can you unmame this?
Give me that big maul.
Solve it. Sway bar problem is fixed. Now, next up, do you remember the episode that we did of Roadkill and also the Roadkill Garage? Both times, we had a problem where this thing would build up brake pressure after driving it for a little while, and it would just lock up the front brakes completely. Wow, this is bad. Let me pull over. We were having so much fun, and then the brakes locked up. I can't imagine why. We figured out what that was like a couple weeks ago. The brake pedal stop was bent in such a way that the push rod never completely retracted from the master cylinder. And so for whatever reason, it was building up pressure and locking up the brakes. All we did is bend a little tab, and that's fixed. Now we're moving on to the next problem, which is a huge problem. You cannot do the Dulcich bang shift in this thing at all because the shifter is spaghetti garbage, and that's because the bracket on the trans is broken, but we have a new one, so we're gonna jack this thing up and fix that. This thing has the famed Chrysler 833, so-called Hemi 4-speed transmission, and it uses a little aluminum bracket that bolts the shifter to the tail shaft housing. And that bracket would appear to be broken, and it looks like there's bolts missing from the shifter. So I'm gonna remove it and have a look-see. Pretty sure the shifter is only held in with one sketchy bolt. Here's what we're working on. This is the bracket that goes on the transmission, and then the shifter bolts to it. The problem is, broken in half. You can see the old school one here is cast aluminum, which is why it broke, and the new Hurst item is actually billet. So this should be much better. This is gonna be a snap to fix.
I've got the bracket in, so the last thing is just put the shifter in and we're done. Clicks in and locks, so there we go. That's installed.
All right, shifter's done. And you're gonna wanna hang out for the Dulcich bang shifting later, because I may be able to match the speed, but I can't touch the flare. It's gonna be amazing. When we got the wrecked Roadrunner to begin with, me and Finnegan did not touch the engine. Whatever it was, it was. It ran and drove. So what we're gonna do in the next segment of this show is sort of go through the engine and do all the basic checks that I would advise for anybody who's buying an older car and just wants to fiddle with it on day one. And we're even gonna change the carburetor just because it's who we are. And I'm just noticing this air cleaner might not fit with our new carburetor, which is kind of a bummer, because if you look, you'll realize that this does say Roadrunner right on it. Watch me pour out all that water. Ooh, it's got a K&N in here. Look at that, and it's filthy. The engine we're working on here is a 383 big block Mopar. It's the low deck version of the same engine family as like a 440, which you've heard of before. As a matter of fact, a guy asked me this question the other day, so I will educate you. This will not be educating Dulcich, but the general audience may not be aware that the low deck Mopar big block has a machined pad on the passenger side underneath the distributor, whereas the tall deck 440 or 413 or 426 has the machined pad over here on the driver's side. So that's a quick at-a-glance way to tell the two engines, as if you were not Steve Dulcich, who could glance at this thing and immediately discern the narrower intake manifold, which would indicate the low deck motor, right?
Yeah. Well, and also the finer detail is the pad on the 383 is at the same angle as the deck, but on the 440, it's flat. Yeah. Would you say the 383 is the greatest engine Chrysler ever built?
I would say that you think the 383 is the greatest engine.
I really like the 383.
Yeah. The 383 is pretty good. You can stroke them out to a 440. Actually, I think you can make them even bigger than that.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not the premium 400 with a larger bore. This has a 4,250 bore and a 3.38 stroke.
Well, you might scoff at that bore size, but it's as big as a 454 Chevy.
Right.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
It's a big bore short stroke motor from the factory.
I will let you shed the AFB. The carburetor that we're removing here is an Edelbrock. I don't know what size that one is, but it's very similar to a Carter carburetor that would have come on this car. The car would have had an AVS. That's like an AFB, so it's very Mopar-y. But
750.
Oh, you saw? You
Well,
could tell
look.
by looking at the throttle blades?
One glance at those butterflies and you know that's not a 600. It's the big boy.
That's the high perf unit. However, Steve and I are much more adept at performance tuning a Holley design carburetor. So what we have here is a 750 CFM double pumper. It's a Brawler, which is Holley's own brand of Holley knockoff carburetors. It's a lower buck version of them, but we've been using them a lot and they're actually really good, so.
Yeah, and when push comes to shove, one of those AFB style carburetors is not gonna perform like a Holley double pumper. Hands down, it's not gonna cut the mustard.
They drive around just fine, but
they're okay.
Wide open throttle performance, these do make more power than the Edelbrock.
I've got the first of the spark plugs out, and just with a quick visual inspection, I can see it's pretty wet, it's dark, and it's oily. So that's what you call a fouled out spark plug. Needs replacement. Now, you'll get that if you have a bad tune-up, you're getting too much fuel in the engine, or you don't let it warm up fully, or sometimes even if the engine's kind of worn and some oil's getting into the combustion chamber. I've got new plugs that's gonna solve the problem for now, and I can tell by looking at it, the heat range on the new plug is a little bit hotter than the old plug. It's not really the temperature that it's firing or the amount of voltage or anything like that. What we're talking about really is how fast the spark plug dissipates heat, and that's a factor of the length of distance from the center electrode to the body of the plug. The colder plug has a shorter path to travel, so it dissipates heat more quickly than the hotter plug. And I can tell just at a glance that the new plug is a little bit hotter than the old one. And what that'll do is allow the plug to operate at a slightly higher temperature, and it's better at burning off contaminants like the oil and fuel that you see on the old spark plug here. So that's basically not the lecture, but a quick lesson on spark plug heat range. What I'm working on is I'm removing the alternator, and the reason is I've got to make a new fuel line going to the carburetor, and I don't like the way this main line's routed. The fuel filter's actually underneath the alternator, so I've got to get that out of my way so I can gain access, and then I'm just going to remake the whole thing. Ow! Sometimes the bolt gets stuck in there when there's a lot of rust. That was a lot of struggle there, but there it is.
Install it while I'm on break.
Oh, I thought you were putting that in.
Next up, I'm going to install some of these cheap auto gauges because we tend to blow engines up if we don't have them, so it's going to go right there. And I'm also going to clean up some of this wiring. Not all, but some. I really wanted to have stock seats in the car. The last time we drove this thing around, we had Dulcich's old 68 Charger seats in it, which were super cool, but he wasn't gonna let us have them for the Rec Runner. And so we gotta go aftermarket seats. Not my favorite. However, I do like the Scat brand Pro Car low back sort of vintage seat. We got them in the 56 Chevy also. They're really good and they look pretty cool. I've put them in 5 cars to this point, and every single time you're hammering, drilling, welding, cutting, but we are gonna get these things in here, and then the next thing we have to do is axle shafts, and I think we're done. Now we got to fix our last big mechanical dilemma. If you remember the first episode with this thing, you know that the silver car that we took the parts off of was wrecked. And we changed the rear axle housing. Remember how it was super bent?
Yeah.
And I had the aftermarket axles on that day, but for some reason we didn't install them. We got lazy and put the stockers back in. And as it turns out, this right rear wheel is a wobbler.
We didn't have the bearings.
That's why we didn't have the bearings. But now we have the bearings, and we've got brand new Mosier Engineering axle shafts for this thing. So we got to slam some wheel studs into it, which you already did on that one. We'll do it to this one, press some bearings on it, and then install them in the car, and it'll fix that bent axle flange.
Freiburger, you know what this is on for?
Marital aid?
Why don't you just hop inside and start the engine?
All right, let's fire this thing up.
I'll time it.
Ready? We have no oil pressure.
Yeah, okay, maybe you have to burp the filter because there's a little airlock.
Uh-huh. So what we got going on is no oil pressure at all on initial fire up, and unfortunately, I don't know why it happens on these big block Mopars, but you gotta burp the filter a little bit to clear some pressure out of it, or some air pressure, so it'll get oil pressure. So I'm gonna sit in here and wait for Steve to do that.
All right, commence with the mess.
I'm just gonna crank. Did it do anything?
Not yet. You
I
gotta,
just shut it off instantly.
yeah.
This is now showing my oil pressure on the gauge, so I think we're good.
Oh yeah, and it didn't even make a mess with oil, so I'm happy.
Okay, ready to time it?
Yeah. .38.
I guess leave it.
But the 38's fine on a 383.
That was 85 pounds of oil pressure. Typical Mopar when it's cold.
Yeah.
I'm glad all the gauges work. Man, runs great.
Oh yeah. The throttle response is like 100 times better than it was before. It has no flat spot at all. It's bam.
Well, we also have plugs in it that aren't fouled to death.
So,
it
air
actually
cleaner?
shrieks. It sounds kind of wicked.
Oh yeah, I might be in trouble when it comes to race day.
You know what, though? It's late. I'm thinking tomorrow we drive.
Man, that throttle response to this brawler carburetor is fantastic.
I gotta give it credit. They're usually pretty good out of the box.
Yeah. Do you see how sharp it is off throttle? There's no hesitation or lag whatsoever.
Because of our precision tune.
Yeah.
In other words, taking it out of the box and bolting it on. That was all the way to $6 grand. I was watching.
Like the rev.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
The front end seems kind of loose.
It is very loose. Look at all the play in the steering.
That's pretty bad.
Watch this. Freaking gnarly ass burnout.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
No wonder these cars were so great.
Oh, dude, can you imagine being 17 years old in 1968, going down to the dealership, drive away with the Roadrunner?
I know. Those were the days. Are the brakes dragging again?
No.
Yeah, they are.
I was gonna see if it gets worse. Yeah, we are getting brake drag again. Watch.
I can hear them.
Yeah, they're starting to drag.
I thought we fixed this with that push rod link that didn't do anything.
I don't know. Maybe it's got a drum brake master cylinder in it.
And the RPV is holding the front discs on. But the guy was driving the thing. How would that be?
Maybe he just changed it right before he wrapped it around the telephone pole.
Maybe that's why he wrapped it around the phone pole.
Yeah.
Huh, because this is the same master from the silver car.
Oh, it's definitely dragging.
You know what, though?
Look, it's like got a line lock.
Right, it's a built-in line lock.
See?
Oh, yeah, it's dragging.
It doesn't have any rollout when I'm
No,
doing...
we better go fix it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Car's awesome. But first test drive, and we already have problems. The brakes are still dragging. I thought we'd fixed it with the whole push rod length, plunger depth problem, but no, it's junk. I think we got to change the master cylinder. Oh, and the steering is a mess.
It's really loose.
Can
But
you fix it?
overall, I'm still pretty happy with it.
Yeah, you know me. I'm on the downswing right now because something went wrong, and I don't want to be bleeding brakes. But pretty soon, it'll be nothing but victory.
Oh, yeah.
It's all fun and games with burnouts until your brakes completely lock up and won't release. We had that problem in the very first episode of Roadkill with this thing, and I thought I fixed it with the shorter push rod on the pedal, and then I thought I fixed it by bashing it, but turns out no amount of sledgehammer on the master cylinder is gonna solve this. So I've got it unbolted from under the dash, and now I'm gonna pull it out, and we're actually going to replace it with master cylinder that we scabbed off of the crop duster shelf. Meanwhile, Dulcich is back here with his 71 satellite doing who knows what unnecessary stuff so that he can attempt to beat me at the drag strip tomorrow. But first, I gotta fix this. Go. I'm sure this one will be much better, right? This is the old one off of our crop duster project, and it's been sitting around in Steve's backyard, but it's all we got. So we're gonna install it and find out if it fixes the problem. I have never had this before. It's the weirdest thing. It's like it maintains pressure in the front brake system. All I have to do is crack the line, and it relieves the pressure, and you can drive it for a little while. But then it just builds right back up. Maybe the piston's stuck in here or something? I really don't know. I'm just happy I don't have to take the push rod out, because that's never fun on these Mopars. Okay, Steve. Crop duster cast-offs to the rescue.
Okay, this should be fixed, right?
Well, I have to let you in on something.
What?
I didn't bleed him. It sort of self-bled.
You just took that rusty old empty
I
brake
did.
cylinder off the shelf.
Well, it still had a little juice in it, and the air bubble was only right at the end of the line, so I just gave it a little love for about half an hour, and I'll drive.
If you trust it, I trust it.
That's pretty good. Oh, nice, center it. Yeah! Wow, this thing's unstoppable! That was awesome. That was nice. This might be better than the vet cart when it comes to hill climbing. Yeah, it is. Man, the Roadrunner's unstoppable.
If you go over to the right, I think you can avoid the bumps.
Think so?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna have to make a sharp turn here.
Oh!
Come out of it. Oh, nicely handled, Freiburger.
Yeah. Oh, look at this one.
Oh, that was great.
I told you, it's unbeatable. That was a pretty good run.
Yeah, it was.
And for the record, we have done 0 damage to the car. No promises that at some point we will.
It's entirely possible. How's the off-road ability, Freiburger?
Oh man, the Roadrunner is fantastic. I can't believe we gotta stop, because tomorrow we drag race. How often do you get to install your slicks right on the track? That is the beauty of us renting Auto Club Famoso Raceway, where we're about to do a showdown with the Wreck Runner versus Dulcich's ugly green satellite. Now, yesterday, we proved this thing's the ultimate off-road vehicle. We also showed that we finally fixed the brakes, but we've developed 2 more problems. One, this thing fouls spark plugs hideous, so we're gonna have to change plugs. And the second thing is, the transmission now does not like going into second. Remember Dulcich's Mopar muscle truck, how it just would not bang into second? This is the same way now. Even Dulcich, with his superior bang shifting skills, could not do it. And this is me all setting you up for why I'm about to lose.
I'm feeling a little distressed here because I've never had this car down the track. I've owned it for about 8 years, and this is the first time. I've got this 360 engine, and he's got the 383 muscle car engine, and I've got these old slapper bars, which I think I pulled this off a junk car a long time ago. I mean, basically, it's a pretty low buck combination. I hope it runs good. I'm hopeful that I'll take out Freiburger, but I just can't bet on it. So we'll see what happens.
The moment is now. Dulcich, with his complete pile of garbage with a roof that flaps in the wind, Me, with this steaming doo-doo, with dead spark plugs and a bad synchro. Who will win? We'll find out right now. I think that was a one-legger. Posi does not work great in this thing. I took off before him. It was my only chance to beat him was to try and, beat him off the line, and he smoked me anyway. Okay, I think we can do this better. Well, I knew my only chance to win was to get you off the tree, so I red lit bad.
I'm out. My transmission won't get out of first gear.
What?
Yeah. I was just on the whole return road, I was trying to get this thing to go into second, and it wouldn't do it. Well, let me try shifting it manually with the slapstick.
Okay. So Steve's super depressed now because his car's broken, and I don't blame him. It was faster than me. I'm going to try and make it better. Hopefully, it's got some spark plugs left to do that. Okay, I need to not red light this time. Broken. That was pretty good. Man, I left hard, spun the tires, but man, that was fun.
Man, that was a terrible run. I just let the thing shift automatically, but now it looks like my shifter's working again.
Oh man, I'm having a good time. I don't care if that was faster or slower. This thing's a riot.
Okay, my shifter is now working, but I let that run go in drive, and my tachometer was like in my feet, and I was super frazzled, so.
All I hear is blah, 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 excuse, blah, 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 blah.
Well, here it goes, Freiburger. I think this is going to be 2 out of 3, and I'm just about to shut you down.
Think so?
Yeah.
All right. I hope I've got some clutch and some second gear and some spark plugs to show you up. The double burnout. Spin one tire, then the other. I left at less RPM and it bogged. Oh well, that'll make Steve happy, and you know what? I'm happy regardless, so everybody wins. My plugs are gone. This engine needs the dingle ball rebuild, or maybe it just needs valve guides, heads. Ooh, aluminum heads. You can always see the upside in mechanical breakage. Steve, these time slips say that my garbage is broken and I'm happy about it, and your junk is broken and you're super depressed. That's what this says. Steve won the best 2 out of 3. His quickest was 1291 at 107.9. The Roadrunner, 1356 at 102.8 with a 1:897 60-foot time.
Actually, you know what, Freiburger? It's just like it all comes out in the wash, okay? I've had this car for a long time. This is the first time on the drag strip, and it's not gonna be a drag car right out of the chute. It's gonna take a little work. I actually don't feel that bad because I'm gonna correct a few things that really deep down in my heart and my soul, in my gut, I knew it wasn't quite right about this car.
Off camera, he's actually ready to open a vein. He's so upset that his transmission won't shift. You're recovering?
Yeah, I wanted to change that transmission control around anyway.
Okay. Well, I'm super happy because even though this thing is fouling plugs hideously,
Yeah.
even though I smoked the clutch once,
Destroyed
even though
it.
the posi rear end is absolute garbage, and even though the second gear synchro's going away and I've granny shifted it, it still went 1356 at 102.8 with a 1.897 60-foot time. So I think that's pretty good for garbage that we threw together with no effort whatsoever.
Oh yeah, the Wreck Runner hauls butt.
Especially considering that we off-roaded the thing into the ground yesterday, and you destroyed the transmission and the posi doing burnouts the day before that. It's all Roadkill Garage win. I think this one is a Roadkill Garage keeper. Think we can go down over here?
I don't see why not. It went up.
Well, what goes up must come down, right?
Yeah, we have gravity on our side. That was just a sissy walk for the Roadrunner. Boom, that deserves a little brooch.
Wait. Oh,
man.
dude, fail. Okay,
Okay,
no, it's too late.
Yeah.
Can't happen.
No broaching.
Wow, this thing is fun.